And let me say just how proud I am to be here with my leaders and presidents who are showing that Africa is serious about taking action and adaptation. So I do want to recognize them by name. Your Excellency President Macky Sall, Your Excellency President Akufo-Addo, Your Excellency President Felix Tshisekedi, Your Excellency my brother President Moussa Faki of the African Union Commission, Excellency my dear sister who is joining us on the screen, the President of Ethiopia. I also want to recognize President Akin Adesina, Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohamed, my sister in crime, along with Kristalina. Now we are known as the Three Sisters, so we'll have to live with that. Honorable ministers, I want to say a profound thank you to His Excellency Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, to Prime Minister Balkanende, who has been a force in making this center happen, to Faike, a real brother who is rallying the private sector, and above all to Patrick, whose energy is unquestionable, who is rallying all of us to this task. Thank you for bringing us here together, and thank you for inviting the WTO. Now, you said we should put away papers, so I will for a bit. Just to say that your people are probably wondering, what is the WTO doing here? What does trade have to do with all of this? And I want to step back a bit and remind everyone that finance is crucial, yes, and we must provide the finance promised. But during the pandemic, when we had the money, many countries had the money. Africa had put the money through COVAX. We couldn't get vaccines when we needed. Why? Why? Because the wrong trade policies prevented us. Countries that had the vaccines put on export restrictions, which did not allow these goods to move. So you might have finance, but if other non-financial policies, the trade policies don't align, you may not be able to get the technologies you need, the goods you need to do the adaptation we need to do. So this is why we're here. Here's my commitment, Patrick. The commitment and the reason I'm so passionate is I feel trade is part of the solution. People often see trade as part of the problem, the logistics of trade as contributing to carbon emissions. Yes, and there are solutions that will come for that. But they don't think of trade as part of the solution. And what we are committing to do is to demonstrate how trade can be part of that solution, and the things that we are going to commit to make sure that once we mobilize this money, we are not stopped from using it because of the wrong policies around trade. So that's the commitment I'm here to make. We started this journey under the able leadership of Minister Lokshama and his team, who really encouraged us at COP26 in Glasgow. And we were able to start putting on the table what trade must do to be supportive. So we are continuing that journey. We have a flagship report on trade and climate, of which we've never done before, which we are putting on the table to show what kinds of support, how can trade be part of the solution prior to COP26. We've all agreed that climate poses an existential threat, one which no one institution, no one country can handle together. And we've all said, as the IPCC report that was quoted earlier clearly outlined, that Africa will be the most affected continent. It is home to 80% of the world's people that are most at risk. So focusing on Africa as we are today is vital. We need to continue to do that. And I'm so glad that COP26 is in Egypt and we have Mahmoud here with us, who will help us mobilize to make sure the continent highlights all the issues from adaptation to mitigation, and that we put the heat on, so to speak, to get the resources that we need. From our report, I want to highlight just a teaser, 4 impending concerns that we see. First, no region is immune from the negative impacts of climate change. Second, trade costs will increase across all regions due to climate change. Third, the profound effects of trade in agriculture are to be expected unless we take action. In the absence of rapid and robust adaptation measures, agriculture will be particularly impacted. And fourth, we are seeing that the patterns of comparative advantage globally are going to be altered, which may leave some countries and some regions at a greater disadvantage. Global warming is already reducing productivity, disrupting supply chains, and increasing trade costs. There's already been reference made to the drought in Europe and parts of China, to the low levels of water in the Danube, the Rhine, and the Yangtze, which is disrupting river transport of goods and impacting electricity generation. Climate impacts have caused crop productivity growth on the African continent to shrink by 1/3 and could cause annual GDP losses of 3.8% by 2060, according to some studies. So this illustrates how climate change will alter patterns of comparative advantage. And we have to watch out, as I am so happy to see Akin is doing, that agriculture-dependent African economies are not caught at a greater disadvantage, that we are ahead of the curve and we are trying to solve the problems. And in all this, it's vital that we integrate trade policies into adaptation to help diversify economies, upgrade and develop new productive capacities. We need to build greater supply chain resilience. Kristalina mentioned the word resilience, and Amina, we need to do that, and enhance access to essential climate technologies, goods, and services. Trade is needed to offset the negative agricultural yield shocks by ensuring access to these new technologies, more resistant crop varieties, which we talked about, irrigation and water storage systems. Reducing trade costs could also reduce the welfare losses from climate change by up to 68% in low-income countries. African economies need more trade and investment so they can adapt to climate change. They need more, not less. Africa already faces tremendous amount of costs with respect to adaptation. And through trade, we can increase the return on investment and increase the resources available to African governments for adaptation. And this is where the WTO plays a role. We need to bring African countries from the margins of global supply chains to the mainstream. With stronger economies, the African continent will be more resilient and more able to adapt. Without trade, the continent will not be able to meet its development and poverty reduction goals, nor implement effective adaptation strategies. At COP27, along with climate finance issues, we need to give focus to trade and investment facilitation for the climate transformation and the just transformation that we need. The WTO can be helpful in bringing this about. I was proud that at our 12th ministerial conference in June, WTO members unanimously agreed that trade must be part of the solution to climate change and environmental sustainability. We struck a deal on the first sustainability agreement in the organization's history. That was the agreement to curb harmful fisheries subsidies, aiming to save $22 billion, which can be, government should think of how to redirect this to support Africa and the adaptation challenge that we face. I also want to say one thing. At the WTO at this time, we were successful. I think we are the only multilateral so far to be able to strike agreements, real agreements that are legal, with Russia, Ukraine, the United States, China, 164 countries around the table. This is no mean feat. And I'm highlighting it because it shows multilateralism can work. There is all gloom and doom.
But there is a place where we've shown that global cooperation and solidarity, such as we need here at this table, can work. And I urge all of us to strongly support multilateral institutions to deliver. Let me end by saying that the WTO is committed to working with all partners so that trade can do its part for climate action. We are particularly committed to working with partners to deliver for the continent. We'll work with the IMF, the OECD, we'll work with everyone, African Development Bank, the World Bank, and we are going to work with the GCA. Just this morning, we signed an MOU with Patrick to talk about how the GCA and the WTO can work together to try and deliver for Africa's adaptation needs. Our members are coming along, and I think from now ongoing, you will see action on the part of the World Trade Organization.